What's up, guys? So I just left the dealership, took the truck over to Shelbyville Chrysler, and first of all, I got to give those guys another shout out because I've always had really good luck with those guys. They're really nice, polite, very helpful, quite a bit different than a lot of dealers that I've dealt with over the years. You know, a lot of them, they act like, you know, you're a problem to them when you come in there and ask for help, you know. The guys at Shelbyville don't do that. They're just sympathetic with you. They understand, and they try to help me out. So anyhow, I appreciate it, guys. But I just left the dealership. They updated the powertrain control module. You guys heard me several times complain about the throttle response and the sluggishness and just the overall poor job that FCA did with tuning these trucks, the new Gen 3 EcoDiesel trucks. I drove that 2021 model and it drove really great, didn't have any of the issues. So I always wondered if maybe they have some kind of a powertrain flash that they could do on my truck and make it better. Because remember, this one was an early build. You know, this one was built in November of 2019, so it was one of the first Gen 3 EcoDiesels. Not the first, but one of the first that came off the line. So early build, the original software. You know, it's been a little over a year now that these things have been on the road, and sure enough, there was an update for the powertrain control module. So they flashed it for me, and now I just need a little bit of time to drive the truck and kind of, you know, get a feel for if it's any different or not. So far, you know, it feels like it may be a little bit more responsive. Some of that delay, you know, when I'm coasting down to like 40 miles per hour and then I dip back into the throttle to accelerate again, there used to be a tremendous amount of delay, and it seems like that's a little better now. But I want to drive the truck for a while. You know, I don't want to just immediately make a call on it. So I'm going to drive it for a while and see. The other thing they did was they performed the floor mat recall, which you may have heard of on these trucks. So I want to show you the difference between the new updated floor mat and the existing one that I had in the truck, because it's kind of interesting. All right, so first thing first, there's a recall, as you guys probably know, on the driver's side all-weather floor mats. So a lot of these Rams, certain model years, mostly 2020 model year, I believe, have what they're calling a defective floor mat. So when I was over at the dealership today, it's one of the things they did was they swapped out the floor mat. This one is the new updated one. This is the one that I had in the truck for a year. And if you look at these, they are exactly the same. There is nothing different about them at all. In fact, you can take the old one and lay it on top of the new one, and it's exactly the same. So I don't know exactly what the deal is with this, because these two parts are identical. They're molded exactly the same. They feel like the exact same kind of material. No differences at all. But anyway, that recall is covered now, and I guess I've got two floor mats that I can use. Now, as far as the powertrain update goes, like I said, I want to drive this truck for a while, put some miles on it before I make a call on whether or not I feel like that actually fixed it. But what I can tell you is that my 30 or 35 minute drive back home, the truck did feel a little better. It is a little bit more responsive when you dip into the throttle pedal. You know, as you're coasting down and then you dip back in the throttle, it seems like the turbo lights up a little faster. It downshifts a little quicker. And then I also noticed on the gravel road down here coming into the house, at low speed, like below 15 miles per hour, the truck behaves better also. Before, it tried to stay in second gear all the time. And when you're really crawling slow, you know, going through potholes and what have you on a gravel road going really slow, especially when you're pulling up a hill, second gear seems a little bit weak. So there's lots of times that I wish the truck would have gone to first gear. And now it seems like it'll do that. It'll say, you know, it'll stay in first gear when it needs to be in first gear. It'll go to second when it needs to be in second. It seems like it finds the right gear, low speed and on the highway. It does a better job of finding the right gear. So Is it fixed? I don't know, time will tell, but it does seem a little bit better. It does seem like it has slightly better throttle response now, a little bit less laziness, and it shifts better. So we'll see, but so far so good. Now the main video I'm doing today is I'm going to show you the undercoating I'm going to put on the trailer out there and why I'm going to do that. Looks like UPS brought me some toys for it. These are the new windows I'm going to put in it. This is probably the E-track, looks like, that I'm going to lay in there as well. So I got to get started on this. All right, so this is what, here where I live, this is what we affectionately refer to as a South Georgia trailer. There's like 1,000 different brands that seem to come out of South Georgia. They've got like a sweatshop for enclosed trailers going on down there or something. This one was manufactured by a brand called Lark United. You can see the waviness back there. There's some cosmetic issues on the trailer. A lot of waviness right in this corner right here, like something hit it. This bracket was missing. They had to go find one of those for me. Don't know how well the camera is going to do it justice, but if you look at the rear of the floor, there's a hump right there. See how it's not level, it's not even across the beaver tail back there. So these trailers have quite a few cosmetic issues. Unfortunately, because of COVID and everything else that's been going on this year, they've gotten way behind on orders. And from what I hear, they're just turning these things out as fast as they can possibly go right now. So I kind of understand, you know, the hold time for a new trailer is like all the way to May of next year at this point. So if you want a a new enclosed trailer, you kind of have to take what you can get. Now, I can live with a lot of that cosmetic stuff, but what I can't live with is this. If you look up underneath this trailer, there is bare exposed steel under here. You can see some rust, some surface rust already. This is a brand new trailer, by the way. It was manufactured 3 weeks ago. You can see a lot of the I-beams down through there are not painted. There's a lot of the cross members here that don't have paint on them. See, it's just bare steel, okay? That, to me, is unacceptable. Now, again, I don't know how good of a job the camera's gonna do, but you can see the front face on some of these cross members does have some paint on it, but up underneath of there, there's nothing. The welds are exposed. You can see bare steel right there. So that is no bueno. Now, the reason that's such a big deal is because here where I live in the wintertime, they put all kinds of junk on the road trying to keep the the snow off the roads. They use straight salt, they use magnesium, calcium chloride. There's all kinds of junk they put on the roads trying to keep the snow away. And, you know, we have a problem with pickup trucks rusting out here. You know, pickup trucks are made at the factory, they dip them with a special coating, then they paint them, then they put a clear coat on them. So they have a lot of heavy protection, and they still will rust out in just a matter of a few years if you don't take real good care of them. So something like this that's completely untreated, uncovered, not painted, not coated at all, just bare steel, this doesn't have a chance, okay? This will not survive in this environment. And to me, that is completely just not acceptable. I'm surprised that they let it go like that, but that's the way they do it. They're not gonna cover that under warranty because that's the way they do it. I mean, that's just, they're all this way. That's how they make them. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna spray the underside of this. I'm gonna, not necessarily the wood, but all the steel under there, I'm gonna spray it, put a coat of paint on it. So I went to Tractor Supply and got some equipment paint, and I'm gonna try and see if I can do this in a relatively quick fashion. So this paint that I picked up at Tractor Supply Company is just farm and implement paint, heavy duty, weather resistant, rust preventative. This is supposed to be some really good stuff for steel. So I figured, you know, it says it stops rust and it coats really well on steel. I'm gonna mix some of this up and I'm gonna try and spray it on. So my grandfather had one of these Wagner electric paint sprayers that he bought that he never used. So I'm gonna try and do it this way. I think this will be a real quick way to just go up under the trailer, spray down what I need to spray down, and hopefully be done with it. So I've kind of parked my trailer in a little bit of a dip in my driveway here, and I've jacked it up as far as I can. Got a lot of chocks under the wheels for safety. I parked my truck here just in case it does start rolling. I'd rather it hit the truck than hit me. But what I'm going to try and do, like I said, just get up in here with this sprayer and just go up and down these cross members. You know, I should be able to spray them all down real quick like this using this thing. Should be pretty handy. And if I can get all this bare steel covered up with a coat of paint, then hopefully it'll have a chance of making it several years. I'm not going to be pulling this thing in the snow very much, but still, even if you don't pull it in the snow, you get all that junk on the road. Next time it rains and gets wet, it's just like driving through salt water. So I got to do something. All right, that's much better. That spray gun makes quick work of the job. You can see everything up under here is painted now. All the framework, got some paint on it. So I got all the frame from the front to the back pretty much done now. Like I said, that spray gun makes it a quick job, but cleaning up the spray gun afterward was not much fun. Up under the tongue here, I went ahead and sprayed that also. Back there by the axles, I tried to get, you can't see it very good on this camera, but I tried to get back there around the leaf springs, U-bolts, all that good stuff. So it's nice having some paint under there now, and hopefully this trailer will last for a long time. So now what I got to do is figure out where to put my E-track. I want to try and, I'm not necessarily worried about lining it up with the D-rings, but I do want to kind of line it up to where it's square off the wall and it's sort of in the track width of my UTV, just in case one day I ever want to get those straps that go around the tires and secure the UTV that way. You know, if I decide I want to do that one day, I need to have this same track width as the machine. So I'm going to take some measurements and try to get this stuff screwed down. I'm going to try and find, of course, where the seams are. It's easy to find, you know, where you've got a cross member. But I got to find some other ones down through here because I want to put some self-tapping screws down into the framework of the trailer so that the wood isn't supporting all the weight. So not too big of a deal. I got some of these self-drilling screws. Come on, camera. They're 1.5 inches long, and they will go right down into the chassis pretty easily. These are just 1 inch long here. So I'm going to use those where there's not a cross member. So I got the E-track in. I ran out of lag screws. I had enough to do the ones that go into the cross members, but I ran out of the ones that I'm just going to put down through there in the wood. So I'm going to have to get some more. But those sections of E-track are in, and that'll give me, you know, whatever distance it ends up being. When I put an ATV in here, I'll be able to just hook up wherever I need to with a strap. So that'll be good. Like I said, I've got plenty of other D-rings in here. There's some more up there too. So this should work out for me with the 2 particular machines that I'm going to be hauling in here. Now it's time to do something fun and scary. So I got some windows, and these windows I got from Amazon. These are 12-inch wide and 22 inches tall, and they have tinted glass, and they have a screen and a slider. So pretty nice. I guess what I'm going to do is take the framework and hold up here where I want the window, and then I got a crude mark with a pencil, but I'm going to redo it. Just mark where I need to cut out with a pencil, and then is when it gets scary, because then I got to get out the saber saw, jigsaw, whatever you want to call it, and cut it all out. And obviously once you start cutting, you're committed. So you got to make sure you measure 2 or 3 times and then cut. Check it out, got some light in here. They're dirty, they need to be cleaned, but it's nice to have some daylight in here now. It's not pitch black with the door closed. Obviously, if you open the door up, then obviously you get all kinds of light, but check it out. I'm happy. Kind of proud of myself. The dealership wanted $400 for a window. And I bought these windows on Amazon for $100 a piece. Nice tinted glass and sliders and a screen. So I got 2 windows for half of what the dealership wanted for 1. So the thing about installing these, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but let me get some more light over here on this one so you can see a little better. So basically, what I did was I took the inner frame and just taped it up to the wall. Come on, camera. I hate this thing. Sometimes it just will not focus, guys. That's a little better. So the inner frame here, I held it up where I wanted it, squared it up with the ceiling, and then taped it in place. And then I took a pencil and just sketched around the inside of it. So you want to go inside on this lip right here on the inside and make your mark with a pencil all the way around. And then I just took a saber saw and went around there and cut it. When you do that, make sure you have a good, sharp, fresh blade in it. And go slow, let the saw do the work so that you don't really mess up your aluminum on the outside. I drilled a pilot hole with a drill first and then put my saber saw blade in about right here. And I went up this side and cut all the way to the top. And then I came back down and started again and went around. And the reason I did that is because it takes a little bit of strength and it's easier to push, you know, with gentle pressure on the saw. It's easier to do that than it is to kind of go down, because then you kind of end up like this, you know. It's easier to keep a straight line going up if you're pushing on it, holding force on it. So I started down here and went up on both sides, met at the top, and knocked the aluminum and the wood out. I ended up having these fit really nicely. So it was scary. Cutting a hole in a brand new trailer is always scary, but it worked out great. Glad to have some windows in here. So all I have to do now is go get some silicone and run a bead of silicone around the top. Now these windows do have seals. The ones I was seeing in the pictures had a rubber seal, but these did not have a rubber seal. They had like a butyl tape seal. So they do have a seal, but I'm gonna get some silicone and go around the outside and put a bead of silicone around it anyway, just to be on the safe side. So I think that's about all I can do today. Spare tire mount is going to go over here somewhere. I don't have it yet. I got to get some more lag screws to finish screwing down my E-track. Windows are in. I guess that's about all I can do for today, but it's coming along. It's coming along nicely. So pretty soon we'll have a finished product here. Toy box / camper. All right, guys, I'm out for the day. We'll talk to you later.